So Dan, welcome to the virtual coffee house for Troops to Teachers. We are here to talk about how your teaching is going so far and the process you went through to get here as you transitioned from being a veteran to a teacher. So we are just so glad to have you here today and look forward to hearing all of the insights you have to share with our future teachers.
Well, thank you very much. Happy to be here.
What originally made you want to even teach when you after serving in the military?
There were a number of things that really kind of came together for me. When I first got out, I ended up working with Macy's for about a year, went through their executive program, really had a great time, the kind of the powerhouse type of job. But as you sit back and look at everything, it's like I really wanted to have more time at home, more time with my family. And then really, I missed the community ties that I had when I was in the military. As much fun as the corporate job was, and it really was fun,
right.
You don't ever feel that same build and that same connection that you have to the people that you have in other lines of work. And so I kind of went back to the basics, and I sat down and started thinking to myself, what are the things that I really like to do? What are the things that, made me happy even when I was in the military or before that? And honestly, one of the greatest joys was when I was a flight instructor and seeing that light bulb flicker on for the first time when the kid first gets airborne, or the first time they don't completely bounce a landing, they actually get it right. And there's something about conveying that knowledge and seeing that reaction among the students that you can't beat. And so I started looking and talking to my parents, and oddly enough, both my parents were teachers. So I guess, at some level it must be in the blood.
Yeah.
But, my mom was the one who said, well, you like teaching, why don't you go teach? And I honestly jumped on, found the Troops to Teachers website, and said, well, any assistance is better than no assistance. Let's see what we can do. So.
Right. Well, that's wonderful. I can tell you really have a heart for the teaching and for the kids. A lot of our veterans come to us and know they want to teach, but they have no idea what to teach. So how did you settle on technology? What made you choose that?
You really have to look back on everything you've done. It'd be very easy. I mean, as a military brat, as a naval officer, you've got that experience for history. You've got the experience to do international relations. You could do social studies of any sort, and science is obviously kind of a touchstone one for anyone who has served. We've worked with scientific communities. So I actually kind of looked at all the things that I really like to do. What did I really like doing as a pilot? And, I like the chance to kind of geek out every now and then and understand the how and the why the plane worked, not just getting airborne, but figuring out everything that was happening in the background. And so you start looking through the different teaching jobs, and you find that one that really covers most of those areas. And for me, the technology side of teaching is really where the growth is within the education community right now. We've looked at the fact that not every student is going to go to college. Not every student really needs to go to community college. Some of them really do just want to get out there, and they're going for the dirty job. They want to get their hands dirty. They want to get in and get doing something, and they want that tangible experience. That's what technology education really provides them. Like I said, I teach engineering, robotics, and design right now, and next year we're actually adding an aerospace engineering class as well. And the whole focus of all of these is to get the kids into the lab and get their hands dirty, get into building something.
Well, your passion is very evident for your subject matter. So what I'm hearing you say is that, we, as the veterans are trying to pick which area they want to teach in, that the passion and love of the subject matter is really important.
Absolutely.
I sometimes that isn't considered enough. You have to really love your subject matter.
The more you love what you teach, it's blatantly obvious to the students, and they can smell a rat. I mean, the kids are not dumb. They know if you are just punching the numbers and going through it, but if you are passionate about what you teach, they get excited, and then they learn.
Exactly. Well, you did something unique, if I remember correctly, is that you were able to kind of get your foot in the door as a long-term sub prior to getting employed full-time.
Right.
So how did that work out for you? Or how did that come about?
Well, I started applying for jobs at the beginning of the summer, right about the time that I applied for the Troops to Teachers program.
Okay.
Which I really do recommend, because you get your name out there, you get known. If you're thinking of teaching, try substituting first. Sign up as a substitute with the local school district. Trust me, they're always looking for more substitutes. We've already lost 300 substitutes out of Fairfax County since the school year started, because people move, people get tired of it, other jobs come up. they're always hiring more substitutes. And especially as we get toward the end of the year, we're going to need more. Springtime comes around and everyone kind of gets outside. So I came on and had initially signed up to substitute, found this tech ed job, and the principal liked me. The county director who I met with, she really liked what I was going to bring to the job. And they said, well, since you're already listed as a substitute, would you be willing to come on as a long-term sub, which is typically up to 90 days. So you can cover an entire quarter as a long-term substitute. Obviously, it's a much lower pay level, but it does get you in the door. You get to know the class. You get that dry run experience of this is what I'm going to be doing day in and day out. And especially as troops to teachers, since you're not coming in with the student teaching experience or the regular pedagogy of going through teacher's education program, it was really nice to come in and get that kind of feet wet, understand what's going on. Then as that was going on, I was able to apply and get my licensure done and have everything else finished up. So.
That is awesome advice. That is very good advice for the veterans, because it can be a struggle to find that first job. Do you have any tips you would give the veterans on studying for the Praxis or the process?
The VCLA and Praxis, first of all, don't be scared. When I took the Praxis test, I came out of there and I even told my wife, I said, I felt like I took the wrong test. I said, it was the most bizarre, one of the most bizarre tests I've taken. I mean, it fit the bill for tech ed, but some of the questions, some of the education theory questions were so off the wall, you just had to sit back and laugh. But get the Praxis study guide from the state. Do not waste your money on any of the flashcard sets or the study guides. You'll see on Amazon, there's a Praxis Physics, a Praxis Tech. I got the one for the Praxis Tech. It was $75. The first quarter of the book was nothing but test taking tips, which you can get for free from the state. And then the last part of the book were questions that were so woefully outdated. And I can honestly say not a single one of them showed up on my Praxis test. So, realistically, go through the state prep. The state's website, where they actually, especially like for tech ed, where it lists all of the licensure steps or all the different certifications that you'll be teaching toward, that's where you'll find all the information. And it flat out says if you're teaching architecture, you need to know the difference between the hip roof and a gambrel roof. It's all listed right in there. About a week or two of studying for it, and you'll be well set for it. Make sure you're comfortable taking tests and you're set. The VCLA, I would say, is actually the harder of the two, the Virginia Literacy Test. I actually think the writing was more difficult on it than on the GRE because it's just very specific. And the same thing applies. Virginia has one version of the VCLA practice available. Get it, practice it, and again, study the steps in their test book. Their test book, I was surprised at how well organized it was to get you ready for the VCLA. Okay. And then also, as soon as you know that you want to teach, take those tests. Especially like the Praxis, get in early. They're both computerized tests. They're no more than 3 hours from start to finish. Get in and get them done. Get those scores down to see if you need to retake or if there is something you need to study, and that'll put you well ahead of the game for applying.
Since you didn't have some of the education courses prior to getting in the classroom, so you didn't know how to write a lesson plan or some of the pedagogy, how did you kind of learn all of that on the job while teaching?
A little bit of Google searching. It really is amazing what you can find on Google these days. I mean, I actually found entire lesson plans to deviate from as soon as I jumped on. But one of the things that I do like about teaching is the camaraderie among the teachers. And I've got 4 neighbors right around me that I can walk over and say, okay, help. The first time I sat down to do report cards was probably the most daunting thing I have faced in quite some time because we use this student information system. You put them in there, I hit calculate, and all my kids had zeros. And okay, now what? And so the teacher next door actually sat down with me and kind of walked through it. Classroom management, same thing, ask. Talk to your principal right away, your subject principal or your sub-school or even the main administrator. They all have tips or tricks that they say. Our school is really good. They tell us that we are not the disciplinarians, that we are the ones that are supposed to be teaching and leave the discipline to the others. And that's been very nice because that's exactly what I can focus on. I can send the referral down when I do have a kid that steps too far out that I can't corral them. There are a lot of incredible resources though for teachers. Teach Like Your Hair is on Fire is one of the first books I read about it.
That's a good one.
It's an absolutely fantastic walkthrough on how to teach. There's tons of options on classroom management. Seriously, grab one or two of them, read through. And if you've been a military leader, you know how to organize your troops. And in a lot of ways, like the high school kids that I have, they're not all that different than the people we work with on a daily basis. They all have the same goals. They all have the same things. They're just a little bit younger. And they respond to, in a lot of ways, to the same types of motivation.
Well, what would be your biggest surprise about teaching that you weren't expecting, or the biggest challenge that you faced having been a veteran and now coming into teaching?
I think the biggest challenge with teaching that I have seen, and your mileage may vary, but the lack of responsibility that I've seen among a lot of younger kids, and they don't get the support from home that you would expect. They seem to think that deadlines are fleeting and I don't really need to worry about it, and you can still turn them in. And it has taken a lot of effort to bring them up to the standards that I would expect of, hey, if I say it's due Friday, it's due Friday. If you're sick and not on your deathbed, you still turn it in on Friday. It's all done online. Well, they use that same thing of it's so easy to do online. They use that as the excuse of it's no longer the dog ate my homework. It's my computer battery was dead and I left my charger at school. So that, I think that the level of excuses really kind of surprised me. And the solution to that, honestly, is get out in front of it. You set your example, you set your standards day one. We always learned in leadership, it's always easier to start out hard and become easier as time goes on. It's the same thing in the classroom. You can be more strict at the beginning and then lighten up as the year goes on. And so you have to set that standard. That really did surprise me.
And so do you have any parting advice, if you could give one or two tips or advice about teaching to the new teachers that you would give?
Do it if you love it. If you want to be there and be that person that the kids are going to remember years later, do it because you love it. Okay,
great. Well, I think that's it, Dan. That was so helpful. What great advice that will be to share to the veterans. So, do you have anything you need from us or anything we can do?
No, I was just saying, I really appreciate your guys' help. As I said, I got my licensure back and it said I needed all of 4 classes, one on curriculum, one on classroom management, one on reading in the teacher space, which has me cracking up. I'm trying to find something that fills that. Okay. But they were very easy. They're ones you would look at and go, I can understand why you have to take that.
Why you have to take that.
Yeah, there was nothing outlandish. So.
You were one of our quickest ones. Do you remember how long it was from when you started going through our application checklist to when you completed all that? I don't think it took you very long at all.
I started right around August, like the first or second week of August. I had everything in except for the Praxis Tech by the end of August. It took less than a month to get all my stuff in. The Praxis was then in by the end of September. And I actually had then the longest thing was just waiting for the state to actually process the certificate of eligibility. And I had my certificate of eligibility from the state, October 15th. So then November 1st, I was hired on full time.
So really within about 2.5 months, the whole thing.
90 days, I would say 90 days from start to finish, and you can be licensed to teach.
Okay, so. That's wonderful. Well, thank you so much. Thank you. We really appreciate you giving up your time.
Yep. And honestly, if any of the other people have questions for me that they'd like to talk to someone, I'm free and happy to talk. So.
Perfect. Well, thank you so much, Dan. You have a great afternoon.